Well, a good day to you all. Rainy day here in Toronto this Saturday, and well, we hope that the weather improves. It's been fantastic so far. Lots of flooding in Trinidad and Tobago as well for those of us who are resident there. I want to talk about death, strangely enough, this weekend. Why? Because we are on the brink of the Feast of All Souls, which falls on a Thursday this year, just in the smack dab in the middle of the week. So let's go out and light our candles and proclaim our faith, whether you light at home or whether you go to the gravesite, whichever. Let's profess our faith in the resurrection. In the village where I came from, a place called MAH00006, All Saints and All Souls were huge social events in the village, and everybody who was anybody would be there. The cemetery was transformed into a magical kingdom of lights, with hundreds of candles spread over a 2-acre plot. It created an incredible scene, and in those days, with less electrical illumination from street lights and from home outdoor lighting, you really got the impression of light pushing back the darkness, especially as the night came on. Death is an existential reality, which is mentioned extensively in the Bible. In fact, we are told that through sin, death came into the world. Romans chapter 5 verse 12. And this week it is mentioned briefly in the second reading in 1 Thessalonians chapter 1 verse 5, where Paul, in addressing his church, speaks of awaiting his Son from heaven, whom he raised from the dead. Awaiting his Son from heaven, whom he raised from the dead. A very brief note, but one that is loaded with meaning. Well, my question is, what's the big deal? The Bible calls death the king of terrors. Job chapter 18 verse 14. Death is king over the whole human race. And this is very simple to figure out because everyone dies. In fact, life itself is a steady movement towards death. It's as if your life is a candle that is burning itself out. We are all made from dust, and unto dust we shall return. Death is the sovereign, the ultimate sovereign in the world. Death reigns. We know that. We are all dying. We have death thrown in our face every single day in one way or the other. We are aware of the tragedy and the reality of death. We make much when people suddenly die at the hands of terrorists or in some kind of physical calamity. But nobody died in any of these events that was not going to die anyway. It's just that we are not in control. But why? Why does death reign in the world? Why is death the final judge? Why is death the ultimate sovereign? What has caused this? Philosophically, death makes a mockery of life. Do you realize that every day millions and millions of people are thrown into complete confusion by death? There is mourning, there is pain, the sorrow, the heartache, the loss of family members, friends, young people, the elderly, babies, in all different circumstances. Death spares no one. The funny thing about it is that we develop very close ties with people, and very suddenly they are taken away from us. People who might still have much to give, much to contribute to life. Why does this happen? What's the point of living if we will all die anyway. In fact, many of those persons that Jesus raised from the dead, they were going to die anyway later on. So what's the point? As I mentioned before, Job 18:14, death is indeed sovereign over the whole human race. It is one of the consequences of original sin. And in Genesis, it is seen as a curse on mankind. It is not natural to human nature to die. We all want to live under normal circumstances. We want to be. Death goes against every fiber of our being. And of course, there is also spiritual death, which is the ultimate penalty. Spiritual death is a total rejection of God, who is the source of life. It is the final result of sin. And it is interesting to see this scenario being played out every day, over and over again and again in life. The same arrogance and desire for independence displayed by Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden is the same desire today by modern man to replace God with himself. What Adam and Eve basically said is, Lord, we don't need you. We're going to eat of this tree of the knowledge of good and evil, of the knowledge of life. We don't need you. You can come out of the picture. And modern man basically says the same thing. He pushes God aside. Modern man tries to replace God and does not want to live under God's authority. It's the story of the serpent in the Garden of Eden happening over and over again. Man living in perfect harmony with God, with himself, and with nature, breaking that harmony by his desire to replace God with himself. Genesis, I think, asks us the very simple question, asks mankind the very simple question: is there a God, or are you God? Plain and simple. Do you have all the answers? Are you ultimately responsible to anyone for your actions? Is human existence just a chaotic, haphazard event or mistake where anything goes? Or is there an ultimate intelligent being who are responsible too and who orders things? Is death the end or the closure of one part of the journey? What do you hear when you die? Do you hear words like this? Well, that's it. Time is up. Or do you hear other words like this? To be continued. Are you going to light your candle, or are you going to remain in darkness? That is a question that you have to answer. When we light our candles, we are affirming life. We are affirming immortal life. We are affirming that death is not the end, is not sovereign, but that the redemptive act of Christ has opened up the floodgates for us to enter into eternity. God bless you all. Let us affirm life. Let's light our candle. God bless you.